Hello class, hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be taking a little look at the Scramble for Africa. So let's break down new imperialism, the Scramble for Africa, quick overview. What do these things look like? Well, new imperialism, that wave of imperialism that comes at the end of the 19th century, the late 1800s through World War I, that new wave of exploration and European imperialism is driven by several motives. Your first motive is technology. Okay, and just like in the first wave of exploration or the first age of discovery back in the 1400s, technology was a reason there. There's also other motives in trying to get new trade routes and whatnot, but technology plays a role. If you'll remember in Portugal, they developed the caravel. This ship has a low, the hull is low so you can go and explore along coastlines that are unexplored and not damage it in the reefs, and the new technology of the astrolabe. See, those are the things that are precursors to passing the Cape of Fear, rounding the Cape of Good Hope. That's Diaz in 88. And then, of course, Da Gama makes it to India in 1498. Columbus in 92 reaches the New World. And those things don't happen without the advent of technology. For this next wave of imperialism, new imperialism, it's the same thing. Technology is going to play a major role. And for this one, this industrialized technology is the steamship. The steamship offers a great deal of advantages to new explorers and new imperialism tactics and methods. For example, in the Indian Ocean, the monsoon winds control the Indian Ocean. Everyone trades by way of the monsoon winds. Well, with the steamship, you can go against the monsoon winds. You can go against the current. This is especially helpful in rivers in Africa, as we're going to talk about the Scramble of Africa and talk about this going upriver. These steamships can go upriver and provide great advantages there. So not only do you have the steamships as part of technology, you also have quinine, the advancement of germ theory, these things to make traveling and going into unknown places even safer. And of course, new weapons play a role too. Ever since the mid-19th century, the American Civil War really highlights the effectiveness of new weapons and the danger, the killing power of them. So for example, like the mini ball or rifling that puts that spiral on the projectile and those things, those are seen in the American Civil War. They're adopted. Lever action rifles grow, and these weapons make it easier to conquer and to fight if you're in an industrialized country. So you have technology as a big motive for new imperialism and wanting Africa. The other big one is the natural resources. Now, you got to remember, these European countries back home that have industrialized, you have these factories, but you need materials to run through the factories to create your manufactured goods. And Africa has those materials. A lot of coal mines to run steam. There's rubber trees, especially in the Congo, to get rubber and to get these things. Other places as well, we're going to focus on Africa today, but other places as well have natural resources. For example, in India, they grow a lot of cotton and different things, especially to subsidize cotton when the American South was blockaded during the American Civil War. So there's other things, other places that have a great deal of natural resources, but man, Africa looks like an untapped well of resources for Europeans. Now, another big factor to new imperialism is the ideological mindset, and this has to do with social Darwinism. And this is named after Charles Darwin, who, in 1869 releases his book, The Origin of the Species of Man. It's after he's been to the Galapagos Islands and looks at those finches, sees how they've speciated, and makes his theory of evolution. And some European countries are going to take that theory and apply it to their situation in Africa, and they're going to say, well, we're more evolved than the Africans, and the white man is more evolved, and therefore it's our duty to go and civilize these countries. Okay, so they're called civilizing missions, or perhaps you've heard the term the white man's burden in relation to this. This all has to do with that social Darwinism aspect, this racist ideology that our ways are better and we're going to go civilize Africa. That's kind of a stamp on the Scramble for Africa. Christian missionary services are are tied into this. Now, some really have good motives. For example, David Livingstone, he really opens up Africa. David Livingstone is well respected by the natives, and there's several reasons for that. One of them is he doesn't go on these giant operations where he has all of these armies and he's going out as a conqueror. He's just taking a small group of men with them, and they're going to go and navigate and do an exploration. He's going to be the first European to cross Africa, and he's going to discover Lake Victoria and Victoria Falls and several rivers, and make a big impact on what Europeans understood as far as the geography of Africa, and that really opens it up. Now, when other Europeans come, if they would have had a tenth of the heart that David Livingstone had, it would be a different story. David Livingstone was loved so much that the Africans cut him open and actually kept his heart and his internal organs, put him in an aluminum box, buried him under a tree, because they said, well, his heart was always in Africa, his body sent back to England, where he's from. But there's some pretty bad atrocities that happen when the rest of Europe dives into Africa trying to get the natural resources they can. Of course, the Belgian Congo, the Belgian Free State, today the Democratic Republic of the Congo, that area right there, that King Leopold II, man, there's a lot of mutilations, hands getting cut off. That's probably the most cruel example of colonialism there. When the European countries get their piece of land. Now, this is decided in 1881. They all meet in Berlin. Otto von Bismarck is there to organize what's called the Berlin Conference. They're going to divide up Africa. And this kind of plays into the last motive here. That's competition. Each country wants to have more than the other. This competition and imperialism is going to lead up all the way to the First World War. But they meet in Berlin and they divide up Africa. And once they get their piece, they've got to go conquer it. Of course, the piece that they're drawn up on their map, they haven't talked to the Africans about that. They've just all decided that in Berlin. And then you go out and conquer the piece, your piece of the pie. If you would. So you have the Boer Wars, that's the British fighting against the Dutch, and you also have things like the Zulu Wars. There's all sorts of conflicts, and throughout it all, only two places remain free of European colonialism in Africa in this big scramble. One is Ethiopia. Now, Ethiopia was given to the Italians. The Italians are supposed to come and conquer Ethiopia. The Ethiopian soldiers defend against Italy. Very, very embarrassing for Italy, so much so that later, when Italy turns fascist, Mussolini's going to come back and conquer Ethiopia to try to right this wrong in Italy's past since they lost. So Ethiopia remains free. Ethiopia is very, they're very prideful in the fact that, man, we are the only country that withheld the European invasions. They deserve, much merit there for the bravery and how hard they fought and other things. The other country that remained free is Liberia. Now, Liberia here is on the coast, okay? And it was founded by some American citizens who founded Liberia and set up the government as a place for freed black men to go. Not a good idea, but that's because it was set up by American citizens, they leave it alone at the Berlin Conference. So at the end of the day, all of Africa, at the end of the scramble of Africa, everybody gets a piece of the pie. Some countries are upset that they didn't get more, but everybody gets a piece of Africa, except that Ethiopia remains free and Liberia remains free as we start and dive into this age of new imperialism. Okay, thank you for listening. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks.